Hi everyone. In this next video that I'm going to reference here, there is a story of a girl who is now being the betrayer in the relationship, unlike the previous one where the man was being the betrayer. But here, between the man and this girl's story, there is a slight difference. The differences of age, the differences of maturity levels, the difference is about also what were you raised around when you were growing up. Because in the case of the previous video that I made, we don't know what is the background of the person who is the surgeon, but we are presuming that because he is a highly educated surgeon, there's a high chance, and in order to become surgeon you have to be highly educated, and in order to have that high level of education, especially in a country like US, and because medical school is so expensive, most people who will come into the surgery background will turn out to be from a privileged background. Very rarely would a surgeon be, or maybe a percentage, smaller percentage of surgeons will not be from a privileged background and might be really someone who did the surgery schooling using scholarships. But a majority of the surgeons would tend to be the privileged sort, coming from moneyed families, or if not moneyed families, they were really excellent students and that's why they got scholarships. So they would be hardworking and smart, which is their intellectual capacity, or they would have money, or both, right? So which makes you a privileged person in comparison to the rest of the world if you have above average intelligence, above average access to good schooling, and above average access to being in one of the top paid professions in the world, right? So there the man was very mature and he was likely in his 30s and 40s. So by then at least you should have developed some maturity in understanding about loyalty, about relationships, how to be mature in relationships, how to not let your teenage hormones and teenage desires or youthful desires overtake rest of your life's decisions. But in the case of this girl in this story, it's the opposite case. Now these people in this story are people who are going to college or junior college, I presume, because I'm not familiar with the American college systems. Based on what was said in this video, what I presumed was these are people who are in their teenage years, who are looking to go towards graduate school later on in life, and at that time they were dating each other. So when you are a teen, you are bound to make these immature mistakes of sleeping around, not understanding relationship loyalty, or making a mistake related to cheating. There, if because the age has been flipped now, a little bit of accountability of the girl goes away slightly, simply because she was in teenage years and hormones could have influenced her more and in that teenage year than if the same girl had encountered the same relationship equation when she was in her 30s or 40s. At that time, if this same person makes the same kind of mistakes or same kind of decision making that a teenager would make, then someone would categorize even that woman to be highly selfish, narcissistic, immature, disloyal in their relationships and partnerships. But was disloyalty absent in her interaction as a teen? No, disloyalty was present even in this story, except that the disloyalty gets sharpened with age, because with age you're supposed to gain maturity about what loyalty and disloyalty means. With age you're also supposed to get maturity about when to get influenced by your hormones and when to have the steadiness in your being, alignment within yourself, to understand what kind of a person you should sleep with, and to discern whether you should sleep with someone, whether you should not sleep with someone, when sleeping with someone, what are the consequences of that. All these discernment happens to most of us when we get a little bit older and wiser in age and time, unless people had really good family background where the family were teaching them good values. So it's very likely this girl didn't have a family who was teaching her good values. Secondly, they either were not teaching her good values, or the parents were really absent, or the parents were very non-interfering. And this is where nowadays, if you look at memes online, there's a lot of Asian versus American upbringing related memes, or African versus American upbringing related memes. Now these memes being created by Asian and African people, background people who live in US. Maybe they were born in Asia, or their parents were born in Asia, but now the children themselves are actually American citizens, but they have this dual upbringing from both the American lifestyle as well as their Asian parenting, because of which they can see the difference in their own personalities that are very different from the Asian parents. And those Asian parents, most of us who have grown up in Asia, like me, even if I have not been raised in US, I identify with I had lived a little bit of my adult years in US. So even though I'm not American, I'm still an Indian. I have this middle perspective of both people who have grown up in Asia as well as people who have lived a significant chunk of their life in US, to understand where Asians are a little bit stricter than Americans, like how these children born of Asian parents living in US feel about their Asian parenting and heritage of their parents. So in those memes, you will see that Asian parents are very strict about these rules about sleeping with others, whether you should sleep, you should focus more on your studies, you should think more about your career first than focusing on the teenage hormonal stuff that American TV shows promote and Americans allow in their lives. Not just Americans, most Western cultures allow this. Even in India, if you have grown up in a family which is very fluid about Western culture related norms, in those families also, when you are growing up in teenage years or beyond, you end up having this culture of dating a lot, sleeping around. It's as prevalent in Indian certain societies as it is in a norm in America. But there is equally the other norm in India, where majority of Indians do not sleep around. Majority of Indians are cautious about sleeping around. Majority of Indians until 22 years, 25 years of age are actually virgins, and they understand about sex mostly from movies and rarely from their parents and rarely from even their school education and things like that. But coming back to this story of this girl, because we are raised in that way, some Indians, that's why, are a little bit more stricter about sleeping around, not violating what you have grown up culturally about, and not marrying before, not sleeping with people before marriage. That is a norm in many Asian cultures. Whether people follow it or not follow it is a different matter. Some people follow it, some people don't follow it, some people pretend to follow it and lie about it. Just like how it is with Christians, where in Christianity also celibacy is asked for by children in the youth churches. But even though their pastors and church teachings tell them to follow celibacy, many children don't do it or pretend to do it, while on in the background they are sleeping with each other. So people do that. Why? Because it's our hormones. If you are in the teenage prime youth of your life, when your hormones are initially flowing through your body, the gender attraction to the opposite sex causes many to be interested about the opposite sex. And then there's the while the men are watching porns and sexually explicit videos about how to have sex and things like that, women are watching what? Women are watching romantic novels, because for women, sex is a way to create a family, whereas for men, And that is where the programming difference starts happening. For women, sex has always been about creating a family, whereas for men it went from sex being about creating a family. For women, sex is about love, but for men it went from sex being about creating a family and about love to becoming a thing about their physical desires. And this was the man of the past. Nowadays women are also starting to get into the trap of sex becoming a thing about their fleshly desires. And while it's true that women's sexuality also should be equally explored and allowed to flourish, but if sexuality and sex just simply becomes about two people enjoying their body and each other's body and nothing else, then it becomes a very meaningless activity. Like, for example, if you love eating food, there are human beings who eat food just for nutrition. There are human beings who eat food because they are poor and they get whatever food they can get and they will eat. There are human beings who are rich enough or luxurious enough or average middle class enough to have led such a life that they have started distinguishing now what is good food, what is crappy food, what is bad food, should I eat all these different kinds of food. Because when you are in a different strata of life or different level of living, or you have upgraded from a poor family to a moderately rich family, or from a moderately rich family to an ultra rich family, when you have your social economic status has elevated, you should technically, ideally, in alignment with your evolution of your socioeconomic status, also start evolving in your tastes. Your taste shouldn't stay, some of it should be same. Like if you have loved some home cooked meals, that loving that home cooked meal is not the problem, but that home cooked meal that you used to love when your mom used to prepare it when you were poor, means that mom would have prepared it like a poor person with microbes, bacteria, other contaminations being ignored by the mom. Or even if it was not ignored, it was ignored according to the socio-economic status and access of that person. But now that you are richer, that same cooking can transition and shift and change, and which is what usually happens. The same cooking will transition, shift and change as you go up and up the socio-economic ladder. Eventually it should change, but do all human beings evolve? No. So like in the previous video where the man was not was kind of failing to evolve according to his age and the relationship status he was in, here people can fail to evolve about sex, sexuality, sexual desires, and understand the consequences of the sexual desires and sexual freedom also given to them. So in America, because kids are given more freedom, even if the parents weren't neglectful, they never teach the children the right responsible way to even attract the right quality sexual partner in their life. Because of which, this girl, when she had a boyfriend and that boyfriend broke off with her, then she was dating some other guy. When she was dating this second guy in this story, this second guy who was her second boyfriend, presumably, when she's dating this guy, the guy saw some red flags that she was texting her older boyfriend, but the guy wanted to give her a benefit of doubt. And he being a decent guy, he not being overly jealous, or even if he was feeling intuitively or instinctively that maybe it is inappropriate that she is maintaining contact with the ex-boyfriend, he didn't speak up. But what was the consequence of him not speaking up? Or even if he spoke, what she gave as an excuse, he believed her. So why did he believe her? Because he trusted her, because he loved her, because he wanted to maintain the trust between them in the relationship. But when he was preparing to go away for out of state studying, at that time also he decided that maybe her having a friend in her life would be good for her. So he was actually thinking about her, caring about her, and being a thinking, caring, thoughtful guy, he wanted to also not provide any hassle in the relationship, right? This was his excuse. That is what is presented in the video. So being a decent guy, normal guy, loving guy and caring guy and maybe understanding guy, he ignored the red flag. But even though he is ignoring the red flag, if there is a red flag in a relationship, that red flag will not go away if you ignore your red flag. So while the guy did learn a lesson, that what happened in the story was this girl ended up cheating on him, and after cheating on him, she didn't even tell him that she had cheated on him. Then she not only didn't tell him that she cheated on him, when she was having a drunken party with some other friends, in that drinking party she confessed to others that she is pregnant, and that she thinks it is the first ex-boyfriend's child. And even though she possibly thinks it is the ex-boyfriend's child, she's going to make the current boyfriend pay for the child care and everything, and she wants the current boyfriend to leave all his future plans and stay with her. Now that is where the relationship really turned unfair, imbalanced for this second boyfriend. And this girl, if she knew she was pregnant, she had so many things she could have done differently. And if she was also a nice guy, kind girl, nice girl, kind girl, fair girl, loyal girl, even if she cheated, because hormones can be a thing that can influence you to sleep with someone. When you're a teenager, it is even more harder sometimes to say no. She might have been lonely when her boyfriend might have gone somewhere for college search purposes. At that time she could have slept with the ex-boyfriend, because she kept telling the second boyfriend that it was only one time she slept. And because she was repeatedly telling that, it seems to be possibly the truth that she might have only slept with her ex-boyfriend the one time. But for pregnancy, one time is enough. For cheating, one time is enough to betray the trust of your partner, right? So most people don't realize it. When they don't realize it, when you are young, when you are immature, when you are inconsiderate, when you are disloyal, because when you do not understand the steps you take in your life that breach the boundary of ethics of your relationship. Because if she had really had some ethical concerns or loyalty related concerns about her relationship with her boyfriend, and in fact if this second boyfriend was getting jealous about her contacting and chatting with her first boyfriend, he should have actually said something more. Sometimes you shouldn't be that understanding also. Yes, you should be understanding enough to trust them, but you should also be clear enough that if you are doing this is a deal breaker for me. Because many people don't understand it. They are so unaware, so clueless, so out of tune with the person they are dating. They do not consider that it is a big deal if they chat with their ex, or it is a big deal if they invite their ex over in their house. Up till then also, many people, if you have good clear ethics and boundaries, you can be friends with your ex even after you've broken up with them. But only if you're not emotionally attached, sexually getting attracted to them. That is the only time when men and women after breaking up also can again become friends. But there's always a window. First you need to clear your energy away, ethically, morally, sexually, energetically, romantically, whatever karma you build by being with a particular partner in the past. If you aren't clearing your energy away from that partner, you will have very less chance of being fair to the next partner. And this is where many people fail, even when they are teens, even when they are 20s or 30s or 40s. People do not understand how to detach or unattach themselves from relationships when the relationships are broken. And that detachment and unattachment from her first boyfriend was necessary for her, and this is a life lesson for her. She didn't do it this time, and that's why she suffered greatly. I felt really bad for that girl also in this whole story, as much as I felt for the second boyfriend, because that girl actually was possibly still emotionally or sexually tied in some energetic karma with this first boyfriend. That's why she kept gravitating towards him, even though she had a second boyfriend, even though her second boyfriend warned or slightly questioned her politely about the friendship she was again keeping with her first ex-boyfriend. She didn't heed the warning, which is where many immature people do that. And if this girl does this in this first two relationships she had in her teens, it might still be okay. But if she continues to have this pattern of behavior again and again and again when she is in her 20s and 30s and 40s, then she is the problem zone, and she is going to continue self sabotaging her relationships, or having really meaningless relationships, or relationships that would be very superficial of, because here the superficiality that has very briefly been seen in this relationship zones is going to be magnified as she ages if she doesn't take accountability and responsibility and considers loyalty, maturity as factors needed to or good appropriate boundaries as the factors that should be there in good relationships that she has in the future. So with her, what was happening with this girl is um, she is young, so she will be forgiven a little bit for a while. But sometimes when you get forgiven a lot, or you don't get a soul shock, you don't wake up to how much pain and suffering you're causing to so many people. Here she's caused pain, and not she not only didn't just cause pain and suffering to herself, and she deluded herself into thinking that she can manipulate the second boyfriend into taking care of this baby, which was where her whole thing fell apart, because this guy didn't want to play that role in her life. He had career goals, he had other goals, and he was deeply hurt by the fact that she slept with someone else. If she was so interested in that other ex-boyfriend, why was she dating this second guy? She could have broken off with the second guy, and knowing that if someone is going away for college somewhere and you want to get back to your ex because you know you don't want to be alone. Many women do that. This is another problem zone of modern women who do not know that you cannot do this anymore in modern life. You have to be less dependent on a man for everything. So if she wanted to get back to the first boyfriend, and simply because the second boyfriend was going to go away and she wouldn't have anyone to date or have fun with, this is the third problem zone. Many people again want to just stay stuck in the fun aspects of life. And yes, being a teen, you obviously want to be in the fun aspect of life, so you can't blame her for wanting fun. But even though you want fun, being human, you have to also realize that you have to be human towards other people also. You can't simply be a selfish, spoilt teen brat. So she was being a selfish, spoilt teen brat, where because she wanted to have fun or have access to a man to do things for her, because there's no other reason why she is continuously gravitating towards this other guy. Yes, she might be emotionally attached to him, sexually attached to him, not gotten over him for many reasons, but whatever her reason going on in her mind that justifies her sleeping with her first boyfriend, or even texting and being friendly with him over the phone, whatever she was justifying that friendliness with, she is forgetting that there's another human being in her life. She could still do this if they had broken up and she's dating no one, and at that time if she's doing it. Or she could have done it if she was casually dating other people who were not her real boyfriends. She was just, testing them to see who could be her next boyfriend. At that moment, if she gets back, then also it's forgiven. But if she has a steady second boyfriend, at that time it becomes about manipulating another human being, insulting the loyalty of another human being, breaking the trust of another human being, which is what she did with the second boyfriend. She broke his trust. But did she just break his trust? No, she was completely planning. It is a good thing that she was drunk and all the truth came out. But imagine if this drunken incident hadn't happened and this truth hadn't come out. Then what would have happened? This second boyfriend, she might have pretended, she would have slept with him, pretended that she's pregnant with his child, then forced him or his family to marry her, which is what unfolded later on, where the boy didn't know, came to know the truth. The boy did the paternity test and all that. He had the proof that this is not his child, and despite him having proof, the girl still wanted to manipulate the boy's mother by pretending that this is the boy's child and he's been unfair. So this is where a woman gets toxic. And yes, I understand that she being a pregnant woman now, she's thinking what to do with about her baby, and that's why she's coming up with these schemes to preserve her life with this boyfriend. But is it any day going to be a good relationship if her schemes had fallen into place, and the truth hadn't been discovered about the baby not being the second boyfriend's, if say her plan had gone through, and she had managed to marry this boy, what would have happened if she had managed to marry this boy, if she had schemed and pretended and cried in front of the mother-in-law and future mother-in-law, and convinced them that this child is his, and then they had gotten ahead and got married. Imagine the betrayal that would have happened to this guy few years later, maybe a decade later in their marriage, when he finds out that this child was not his, right? And then the betrayal and intensity of the betrayal would have been 10 times more, 100 times more, that many good memory times more, because in all the background thing, she was just actually pretending to be happy with him, when in the background all she did was actually scheme to ruin this person's life, right? Because it is a scheming to ruin a person's life if you saddle them with someone else's child without telling them that you are what you're doing to them, without giving them the choice to know the truth and be authentic about what should unfold. And this lack of authenticity and the presence of extreme manipulation, not only of this guy but everything related to her pregnancy, is the reason why she's suffering, and she needs this soul suffering. And it's good thing that the divine intervened via the friends and other people who knew that this boy is not the father, and they were good enough to tell him that he is not the father. Imagine if he had crappy friends, none of them would have told him that he is not the father, and he would have been cluelessly in love with her, and possibly even married her, possibly even delayed his graduation and other plans, and then got sucked into a relationship with her that might have ended long time back if she had never been got pregnant. The pregnancy was just a test here. Here again, this is a test and evolution of a relationship, but a test and evolution of a relationship where the girl failed at the test. The girl failed when she was getting tempted by the ex-boyfriend. She should have said no to him, but she decided it's only one time, and that's why she did it when she shouldn't have done it. Because if you already have a partner, why do you need someone else to fulfill your sexual desires, how much ever you are attracted? And because this slippery slope she allowed that one time before these guys have got engaged or married or had any long-term plans, she has the potential to again be disloyal again and again, thinking this is only one time, this is only one time. And this is the problem with the consumerist, instant gratification, I want world, or selfish oriented world, or people with privilege world. Because this girl potentially is likely very hot, very good looking, very sensual, and that's why she gets access to all these boys. But imagine there is another girl who will be loyal, kind, supportive to both, to the second boyfriend, who can't enter the second boyfriend's life if this girl sits and hangs on to both the boyfriends at the same time. And there could be a third girl who can't enter even the first boyfriend's life if she continues holding on to two men at the same time. Because why should you do that? This is a modern world with 8 billion people. Should every person, if God really wanted a world where people are constantly sleeping around with each other, getting pregnant with each other, this 8 billion world will now exponentially increase to 3-4 times that if people do that. But does God want a world? Already our earth is crashing with 8 billion people on it. So if people continue to sleep around and mess around and have children out of wedlock and be disloyal to their partner continuously and have children with both partners or things like that, all you're doing is you're creating a messy world and more messier world. So no one wants that messy world. Everyone wants a clearer world, a world where you've come to experience life in a balanced manner with a partner who is fair to you as much as you're fair to them. So while the second boyfriend was being fair to this girl, she was not being fair to the second boyfriend. And when she knew that the first boyfriend is not going to take care of the baby, when she found that she's pregnant, she should have been either open with the second boyfriend, or also really thought about the alternative that the guy asked her to do, which is to terminate the pregnancy, or finally, if she is also not capable of carrying the load of a child and raising a child, he should also think about giving the child up for adoption, because these are the things that she has to now consider. And she made the decision to be pregnant, and as a woman she should therefore be careful. Most women do not understand this, do not think about this, do not realize that it takes is one time. Even if you use protection, it can take only one time to get pregnant, and that pregnancy will happen as a life lesson for you if you have been unfair, unethical, disloyal, manipulative, and all sorts of crappy behavioral patterns you've been going through, and you need a rude awakening. Then also it can happen as a life lesson to you, or it can happen as a life lesson to the other person. Say the girl was all innocent and she hadn't really cheated, in a hypothetical girl situation, not this girl situation, but imagine there's a girl who's a teen who wasn't really cheating on anyone, but even then it so happened that when she possibly left the first boyfriend and went in a relationship with the second, in that transition phase, let's say she got pregnant. At that time also a second boyfriend can have this dilemma of what to do with the child from a previous relationship that has just ended, and my relationship has started with her. But in that transition time of 1 month 2 months gap, at that time she had become pregnant when she was maybe just ending the first relationship and beginning the second relationship. Those gray zones can also happen to some women, but again, in that woman's case also, she has to be authentic with the other boyfriend, with the next boyfriend, if she has become pregnant as a result of a past relationship. You can't simply cheat people, but if you do cheat people, you end up facing the consequence that this girl faced, even though she tried to manipulate the situation in her favor. It's luck that manipulations didn't work against this boy. Otherwise, if the number of people who supported him, if the data hadn't supported him or had been ambiguous, his life would have been ruined for much more months. He would have gone through much more agony than what he went through in the few months that he had to interact with this girl. And this is another toxic thing, that sometimes people, when they are in love or when they want to manipulate love, they pretend about love in such a way, they want to hold on to another human being even though they have done the other human being a lot of karmic bad. They have been disloyal to their She was disloyal to this boyfriend, she was karmically unfair to him, she was ethically unfair to him, she was continuing to be disloyal with him by trying to manipulate his parents against him. Despite doing all these, she's holding on to this belief that this guy will marry me, or this guy will be in on my side. So this is the high level of delusion if a woman goes through these kind of delusions, thinking just because he's a good guy. A good guy doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be good to you when you have been bad to them. And a good guy also doesn't mean that yes, there are Joseph like fathers in the world who do take care of another person's child. But when Joseph had crystal clear knowledge that Jesus is not his child, he knew that, he had that crystal clear knowledge, and with that knowledge he went to take care of Mary and Jesus, right? That is a very different situation than Mary manipulating Joseph into marrying her and then revealing to him that she's pregnant with a child that is not his. It's a very different scenario. Or yes, her second boyfriend might have taken care of this baby also, possibly in some alternate reality, but only if she had mentioned this pregnancy before trying to manipulate him into becoming the father of this child, right? So this is the problem with modern relationships. When women manipulate a bit too much, they are going to come against men who will not allow that manipulation, or vice versa too. If the genders were flipped, again, if men have been manipulating a woman too much, there will come a day when they will meet a woman who is not going to be manipulated by them. So what she did, now the problem is, if she is this level mentally disturbed or socially not capable of having balanced relationships where she doesn't understand the ethics of relationships, morals of relationships, she's going to be a really bad parent. In this baby's case, it would actually be better if the baby was adopted and given away somewhere else. But if a baby ends up being raised by such a mom, that baby is going to now have a nightmare life with such a mother, because such people end up becoming the similar, like how that in that other video the dad is a potential narcissistic father or a antisocial personality type father. This woman is also like that. She is a potential narcissistic antisocial personality type woman, and if she raises this child, she'll be that type of mother where she will very rarely think about the child's, because she didn't even think about, she's using the child's emotions to tell. And many in the story itself, when she's talking to the potential mother-in-law or the potential husband, that please take care of the child. If you don't take care of the child is feeling so sad. She's using the child's emotions to manipulate the guy. It is true, the baby might be in extreme agony because the baby doesn't know who is going to be its father when the baby comes out in the world. That's a true thing, but manipulators and antisocial personalities use a bit of the truth to twist it into their advantage than to actually consider that truth as a factor in their decision making. Because if she really wants to be emotionally healthy, emotionally balanced, give the baby a well balanced, emotionally stable and steady mother. When a guy has, both the men have said they are not going to marry her, she should have the self respect, self care, and self love, as well as love for her baby, to think what is best to the baby given the circumstances that neither of the men are going to marry her. She has to think now in that level. But instead of thinking it, because that was her awakening path, that given that both boys are not going to be with her, and now that she's pregnant, possibly she will not find any other mate for a few months or years now, what is the responsible parenting she has to give to this child? Is it about adoption? Is it about thinking plans with her own parents and family on how to raise a child as a single mother? Is it about becoming a responsible parent and taking care of the emotional needs of the child and not subjecting herself to torture, emotional torture, by going and seeing a boyfriend who's saying that I'm not going to marry you? Or deluding yourself into thinking that even though he is saying he's not going to marry me, I am still going to make him marry me. She's been like in Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara, at the end of the movie when Rhett Butler left her, he said, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. He also had enough of her cheating ways and everything. And that day something clicked for him, that's why he left. And that happens to people when they get constantly cheated by their partners, or they have started realizing that their partner really doesn't love them. A switch really flips inside a person's soul someday, and God only makes that switch flip, even if you don't make it flip. But that switch simply flips, where it really becomes true that you cannot care enough about someone you had cared decades or years for previously. It just happens. You just see them for who they are, and after seeing them for who they are, if you see that they don't really care for you the way you deserve to be cared for or loved, one day that switch will flip and you will leave them. So when Rhett Butler left her, Scarlett still had this in the end of the movie, or the book, she still has hopes that one day she'll go back to Rhett. She has that hidden hope. It is not explicitly expressed, I believe, but it's subtly expressed in the way in which she's thinking that she will get back everything. Like how she got back Tara, she can get back Rhett as well. But that is not how it works. You can get back land, you can get back cars, you can get back money, you can get back any materialistic good any day, any time, with your grit, with your determination, with your ability to manifest. But love is something you can manifest in your life only if you deserve that love, and only if you're going to be fair to that love. Because when you manifest money, you don't have to be fair to the money. if you manifest getting 1 acre of land back that your family had lost, that is fine, you got back 1 acre land, but that land doesn't require anything else of you. If you get it back and then you ruin the land, yes, there is potential earthly repercussions on your dependents, but personally to you there is no emotional equation, no energetic equation, no karmic equation, no spiritual equation. But there is a spiritual, karmic, energetic, emotional equation that you have broken when you have broken someone's heart by being disloyal with them, by breaking their trust, by misusing them, by abusing their love towards you. So when you have broken all these parameters or multiple parameters, those switches get flipped by God itself, and you cannot, how much ever Scarlett O'Hara thinks in that end of the movie that she will get back to him, and how much ever the second sequel written by someone else said that they got back together, realistically in real life, the way in which they got back together in the second book was absolutely the wrong way anyone would get back together with their ex if the right soul contracts, karma, loyalty levels, maturity levels didn't transpire between the people in a future timeline. Then only there is a very remote possibility they can get back together. Otherwise, if you have broken many contracts with someone related to their emotional journey, related to their emotional health, related to their emotional connection you could have built with them, related to balancing life with them, aligning life with them, merging life with them, if you break multiple soul contracts, karmic contracts, and are incapable of actually holding on to those contracts in the right way, you cannot be with each other. There could have been in a parallel timeline, if this girl was more ethical, this guy and this girl, second boyfriend and this girl might have been parents to this baby and might have led another 5 years or 10 years of happy married relationship life with each other. But that lesson of 5-10 years that they could have had potentially together with each other of a good balanced life for this girl and the baby couldn't transpire, and would have only transpired if she had been authentic and honest with him and everyone else involved. And because luckily she was with people who knew, who were in alignment with their soul contracts, they didn't support her, they supported this guy, they helped him in moving away from this girl. Otherwise, if the other people around, and I'm talking about this issue because this is a problem with many people in modern lives, sometimes you're with people who, despite knowing these secrets about your ex, they break their soul contracts with you and do not keep you up to date about what is the right thing to be done, what is the aligned thing to be done in life. And if they break your soul contracts of friendship, then there are people who have friends who know that your wife has cheated or your girlfriend has cheated on you and has given birth to a child that is not yours, and they will keep that secret from you. But then you are breaking the soul contract of authenticity that is required in the modern world or any other world with you, for humans to coexist in balanced living with each other. People think that it is a very great moral dilemma if they are hiding because they love their friend, that's why they want to hide this information about their friend from her boyfriend. Some person could have done that. The people who heard this drunken tale could have decided that let's support this girl because she is a poor pregnant mother. But it is not simply about poor pregnant mother. She made the choice of sleeping. She made the choice of manipulating. Sleeping was the first wrong. Second is the manipulating about the pregnancy is the second wrong. And third is, despite being pregnant, she's drinking. So she knows she's pregnant, means she must be at least 1-2 months pregnant. If she is 1-2 months pregnant and she's drinking and partying at like such a level where, you know, a 1-2 months pregnant woman shouldn't be drinking at, she's harming the baby. She's a very irresponsible mother in every way possible. So people should do not only this separation that happened between this boy and this girl, her parents, her family, her friends and social circle, if they really want something good to happen for this girl, they need to wake her up to all the rubbish, garbage she's feeding her head, thinking that any boy should take care of her just because she got pregnant or just because they were dating her. That is also not what men are created for. Men are created for to be good partners with women, but you have to also be a deserving partner to a man. You can't be a deserving partner if all you want is your needs, your desires, and your selfishness. Then you're not a deserving partner to a man, any man, and you're not even being a deserving daughter, deserving friend, deserving potential future mother also. Nothing she's showing in this whole story shows that she is right now doing any optimal job in self-care or child care or understanding where she's gone wrong in life, and she's continuing to make mistakes in her life. And if she doesn't get checked the right way by the people in her life, because that is their soul contract, if one person goes wrong or is going horribly wrong, everyone else is not supposed to forgive her for the mistakes that are unforgivable. They're supposed to actually teach her some life lessons based on the unforgivable mistakes. They can only forgive her when she has true remorse for having cheated. She can't be forgiven if she doesn't have remorse for cheating. She can't be forgiven if she doesn't have remorse for manipulations, or even if she is forgiven for it, it will not help her karmically or in her future become a better evolved human if she continues to get forgiveness for things without having paid the consequence of the mistake she has made. So this consequence that she's paying for with this guy breaking up with her was a much needed consequence she had to go through in life if she wants to learn to become a responsible adult and human, and a caring and empathetic adult towards other people's pain. Here what she is doing is she understands other people's pain, but she's manipulating other people's pain against them, which is where she's going wrong in life. So if you have any questions on this, and then when she will encounter other humans in her future, if she doesn't check herself, if no one else is able to check her, she will really become a monstrous narcissistic personality to her child, to everyone in her life, and will use these kind of evil manipulations, and she has the potential to become really evil in someone's life. Because the more if she's stopped from certain things in life, she might also start becoming like a bitter, envious, jealous person, thinking like I'm not getting she may start getting these entitlement or delusions, thinking that she's owed something by a guy, she's owed, men need to provide for her. She can start holding all these rubbish belief systems, which many women do. She's just a modern version of what many women have done for many centuries in a wrong way, and she's the toxic outcome of those all sum total of all those women who kept doing small degrees of wrong things in their life, which is showing up in this woman's life in a great way. But again, her and other women like her, if they are not checked in the right ways, right checks, and the men in their life only have to, men or other women in their life have to provide them the right checks and balances. This future mother-in-law should go no contact with this girl for having manipulated her in such a way that making her believe that her son is the one who is the father of the child when he wasn't. In some rare cases, opposite things may be true. There are rare cases where a woman is pregnant and the mother believes her son that he is not the father, but the truth is the opposite. In such cases, it's the guy who needs the rude awakening. It's a different story than this one, but if that were the truth of someone's tale where such a thing has unfolded, where the guy is indeed the father, because the guy did say that I might take care of the child but I will still break up with you, there also some cruelty will be involved. Then at that time, if she had convinced her mother-in-law that if the baby was his, and then if she's trying to convince the mother-in-law, still makes sense. But again, it is a gray zone. She should convince how much. You should have self-respect also. If a guy says no to you, you have said no to the guy by cheating on him, so he has every right to say no to you as well. Because if the scenario was a different one, where the child was indeed the second boyfriend, but he has found out that she had cheated on him. The second boyfriend does have the right to break up with you because she broke his trust. So it's very difficult to build back trust, and in order to build back trust, if you're again using manipulations to gain back that trust, how are you building it back, right? You cannot build back something by making the same mistakes that broke it. So I hope it made sense. And again, if you have any questions and comments, please drop a comment or insight about your perspective on this story. Thank you very much.